this Monday, July 15th, episode 145. I'm your host, Scott Grierson, and we are bringing you the 5 things you need to know every day in the world of fantasy sports. Today is no different. We have 2 stories from Major League Baseball that we need to talk about, and then we're going to talk fantasy running backs. We have some updates in my top 20, as well as some sleepers that have gone up and down in my rankings. So we'll get to all that after a word from our sponsor, www.mathradio.com, where you can go get an online math course for as little as $9.99. Help your kids ages 7 through 17 score better on exams, get better grades in school, and even get into college with the help of a SAT math prep course. They have courses from the grades of 3 all the way up to high school. You can help your kids today by picking up an online course. It'll cost you less than $10, and it isn't a monthly fee. There's no service to sign up for. It's a one-time cost of $9.99 to become the hero of your household and help your kids do better in math. Go to www.mathradio.com. All right, let's get to the stories of the day. The big news out of Major League Baseball was Mike Trout was removed from the game last night in the 3rd inning with a tight calf. It seems like it's no big deal, but it is Mike Trout, so we do have to bring it up. He even quoted himself as saying, I don't think it's a big deal. So obviously it doesn't seem like a big deal. If he plays tonight, we will all rest a little easier. If he doesn't play, then we can get a little bit worried. Story number 2 is Homer Bailey was traded from the Kansas City Royals to the Oakland Athletics. He has put up very good numbers recently. In June, he had a 3.48 ERA. In July, a 3.6 ERA. And his strikeout rate is much higher this year as well. 81 Ks in 90 innings pitched. I like him in this new environment. I think he should pitch well. He's on a better team, so his win total should be higher also. So I like Homer Bailey. If you do have a chance, I would pick him up or try to trade for him. I think he's hot. You should go ahead and ride that train. Homer Bailey. All right, that's all the news of the day. Let's move on to some fantasy football news, and we're going to talk about running backs. So Melvin Gordon announced, I think on Saturday, that he either wants to be traded or get a new extension before the season starts. I talked about this the other day. I don't think it's going to happen, at least the trade. Again, who is going to pay this guy big bucks and give up a trade asset to get him? I mean, unless it's like a 6th-round pick, something like that. And then why would the Chargers do it? They don't want to be without him. And they have 2 other good running backs, but I don't think that's going to happen. So I think Melvin Gordon will end up starting the season for the Chargers. I don't think he's going to want to miss his game checks. And maybe they even work out a new deal for him. I'm not overly worried about Melvin Gordon, but I moved him down a little bit. I had him 8th. I moved him down to 9th in my rankings. One guy who I shot way up in my rankings is Aaron Jones. It seems like every week I keep moving him up and up and up. He is now my 10th rated running back, ahead of guys like Todd Gurley, Le'Veon Bell. Le'Veon Bell is sliding for me every single week as well. People like him. I mean, I've seen him taken in 5th in a lot of leagues, but I mean, he's just not for me. There's a lot of question marks there. I kind of thought he's always a product of his system, all that dancing he does behind the line of scrimmage. I don't know how that's going to work out on a new team. The Jets are really going to have to refigure their offense for him. I don't like that. It's too big of a question mark for me to take in the 1st round. So I've got Le'Veon Bell way back. Excuse me, as I think RB11 right now. Okay. Speaking of the top 20, I've got Darius Geis out of my top 20. I've been talking about him, for what feels like 2 years now. I loved him coming out of the draft last year. Then he got injured. It seems like he's still not healthy, and that Washington offense won't be very good. It's a crowded backfield. So I'm selling. I'm done. Geis just isn't going to be my guy this year, I suppose. Maybe he'll be a 3rd-year breakout, or maybe he's a breakout candidate for the second half of the season. I'd love him in best ball, but I mean, he's just going too high. I think his ADP is around 75 or 80. There's just a lot of guys I'd rather have ahead of him right now. So I moved out Geis. I tentatively moved in Derrick Henry right now, but he's really kind of a placeholder. I'm thinking about moving Ronald Jones into that spot. There's a lot of good guys around that number 20 range, and it's hard to really narrow it down on which guy would I pick. But right now, I'm loving Ronald Jones. I think he's the starter from day one out of Tampa Bay. I think that offense isn't bad. I think the defense is horrible, so they will need to move the ball. He can catch the ball. He can run the ball. I think he's a starter, like I said, and he's going in the mid-90s. So I think that's a good value to get a running back that could be a top 20, top 15 guy, in the 8th, 9th round. So will he finish in the top 20? I'm not sure. I'm not quite willing to put him in my top 20 yet, but he's getting closer and closer as I keep drafting him in like every league I'm in. So Ronald Jones, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I wanted to talk about. So I've been doing a lot of best ball lately, and you have to have a much bigger roster because we're in draft.com. We're drafting 18 players, so there's an 18-player roster that doesn't even include defense and special teams, and then there's also 12 teams, so it's a lot of players. It's an extra 4 rounds where you have to draft. So you need more running backs, more wide receivers. And then, you've got to think about, your tight ends and your quarterbacks. But I want to talk about a couple of sleeper running backs that maybe I haven't mentioned before. Raquel Armstead. I was listening to let me get the name of the show right so I don't screw this up here. The Fantasy Pros, their top 10 deep sleepers. It came out on last Friday. A real good show. They mentioned someone named Raquel Armstead. He is a rookie out of Jacksonville. He's being taken as ADP 200. So obviously you can get him in pretty much any league you're in. But anything happens to Fournette, this guy could be the guy. And Jacksonville doesn't have the best offense, but I'd see him as a back-end RB2, maybe an RB3, a flex play. As the last pick in your draft, I don't see any problem with drafting Raquel Armstead. I don't know. I don't trust Fournette. Fournette, I mean, how many games does this guy play? He's certainly not in my top 20. People draft him like he's the top 20 running back. Get out of here. He certainly won't play the whole – maybe on a game-by-game basis, but, yeah, I don't trust the guy. Let's see, who else do we have? Ronald Jones. We talked about Carlos Hyde. So I've been talking about Carlos Hyde for weeks now. I'm going to drop him down a bit. On that same podcast, they were talking about some of their sleepers they've been hyping, and I've been on this guy forever. And they were talking about projected fantasy performances based on where you get your carries, and he was like 80 points behind the average running back. So that is not good at all. So I thought he would just never got the opportunity, but maybe he's just not a good player. So I want to be on Carlos Hyde, but maybe I'm out now. I'm gonna have to give this one more thought, but I want to measure back my hype of Carlos Hyde a little bit because I've been all over him, and maybe he's just not as good as I think he is. Moving on, Justice Hill. So I was talking about Edwards last week for Baltimore, but Edwards, like I said, he can't catch. He had over 780 yards, but he caught 2 balls all year long. Mark Ingram is an all right receiver out of the backfield, but I really think Justice Hill might be the third down running back from day one. He can catch the ball like dynamite. He's got super athleticism. He's got a lot of speed. So I think he comes in as the day one third down back when Baltimore needs to pass the ball. And I also think that he could take over this starting job by the end of the season, especially if Baltimore's not doing very well. What's the point of running Mark Ingram out there if you're not a playoff team? So I think they might want to see what they have in the young guy in Justice Hill. So I think there is some value at the beginning of the season as your third down back. Maybe he explodes a little bit. And then I also think he has a chance to take over in Baltimore and be the every down back. So just wanted to refresh a little bit on the running back position, tell you who's moving up, who's moving down my charts. Tomorrow, we're going to talk a little bit about wide receivers and their movement up and down. Then we're talking what do we have? We have defense on Wednesday and Thursday. Friday, we'll talk some more best ball strategy and all that good stuff. All right, we will see you. Actually, you know what? Maybe we'll get to defense tomorrow. Yeah, let's do that. We'll start our defensive talk tomorrow. We'll do my top 10 defenses, and then we'll do some deeper defenses. We'll get into it. I want to try to match up how well they did in fantasy performance last year with DVOA and see if we can find some correlation. So we'll talk about defense tomorrow and Wednesday, and then best ball Thursday and Friday with some wide receiver talk and tight ends thrown in there. And of course, we'll be back with whatever fantasy news there is. So please check out our sponsor, www.mathradio.com, to pick up an online math course. If you are listening to the show on the podcast, we would love it if you gave us a 5-star rating and a review. That would be awesome sauce. And if you're watching the show on YouTube, please leave us a comment below, hit that subscribe button, and tell a friend. Share the show with anybody you know. We'll see you tomorrow.